மேம்
நேம் கரெக்ஷன் யார் பண்றா?
ஏன் மேம் என்னாச்சு?
இல்ல இப்ப நான் நேம் கரெக்ஷன் பண்ண சொல்லி ஃபைல் அப்டேட் பண்ணும்போது ஃபைல் டேட் போட்டுருக்கேன்.
பண்ணலையா?
You're energized. You're energized. You're with energy. Even though maybe they just had a cold. Oh. Oh, thank God. Oh, can you hear me? You can hear me. Let me.
Us? Yeah,
Hi.
we can. Hello.
When I look at the screen, speaking about the importance of self-presentation and self-representation, Benno is here, Yihan Chen is here, everybody's here. We're just waiting for Elena. Give me a moment to see how I'm gonna run this because you guys are behind me. Mustafa, you're here. Where are you coming from, Mustafa?
I'm not sure I can just hear you like properly, but I'm from Marmara University and I can hear you well.
We're from Turkey.
Yeah, from Turkey, Istanbul. Yeah. I had to join online because I had a class that I can't cancel, but tomorrow I'll be there.
Give me just a second. So we need one Turkey and Indian.
Sure.
It's the speaker that is sounding so long.
No, just this is the speaker here. The box, the sound boxes, no use.
Yeah.
I think it's enough when you speak it here, the microphone will take.
So you just go by the microphone,
No,
right?
it's enough, I can think here. It's not a problem.
Just this small box.
This box is speaker
Yes, it's
and the
speaker.
microphone.
Yes, that's
connectivity.
but no use of this one.
Okay, so it's gonna be just you and I.
Oh, really?
Our men are online.
Oh, okay. So it's 2 men or 3 are online.
Three,
Okay,
here.
excellent.
We should all be closer, a little bit.
Yeah,
closer. Do you mind coming here?
Here, at least on this side, otherwise.
Okay, so. I have to tell them. Yeah.
Don't be afraid.
I'll do it at the very. I'm going to ask Salo. Could you and I sit in the middle of the screen behind us?
I think so, that's why I was
Or
not.
away from the screen?
Well, I mean, if you sit here, you won't block the screen, but if you sit in the second one, you also, maybe the second one, so we can actually face.
That's this one, right?
Yeah,
Sorry.
In steel.
Senior one, Steve.
Yes. So yes, so when I need you, we'll do.
Can use this presentation control on.
Okay. And do I need a mic for the online people or I can speak? Can you hear me all right? Where did they go?
yeah, where did they go?
Where did
Ah,
they
here.
See all the screens separated over there.
Ah.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen on this side.
Would you like to join over?
The separation.
Oh, okay,
Let's come closer. You can leave your things, you can leave your stuff and just come.
Yeah, just so we can have more of a conversation, so we're not looking for you. out there
Yeah.
somewhere. Where are the people I'm talking to?
Anytime, you'll have time. You can leave your things and just come sit here.
And where's the microphone?
The microphone is right there.
Oh, yes, sorry. Here we go.
All right, so we are ready. I want to welcome you to the session which is called Education that Fosters Intercultural Understanding and Appreciation and the Values of Objectivity and Truthfulness. For the audience online, I think it would be very useful to read the introduction, so the brief concept note. So we have the terms of discussion, if you will, at least the context. The human community is rapidly evolving from a diverse network of distinct geopolitical, racial, ethnic, religious, and cultural groups into a closely interconnected, interdependent cauldron of intermixed groups. This growing contact is intensifying the awakening of social aspirations and social energy, accelerating discovery and promoting invention. At the same time, it is challenging prevailing beliefs, institutions, customs, and cultural practices, and generating increasing levels of tension, anxiety, and conflict between erstwhile isolated communities. Education is the essential institution for preparing youth for a rapidly changing world. Let me repeat that. Education is the essential institution for preparing youth for a rapidly changing world. What type of education do we need to enhance intercultural understanding, tolerance, and appreciation? How can we develop an education that accepts and respects intercultural diversity and prepares youth for harmonious living in our increasingly complex world? So this is our context, and I will introduce myself. I'm Dr. Mila Popovic. I'm the fellow and the trustee of the World Academy. I am also a performing artist, an artistic director. Okay, and now social artist that is designing social movements and institutions, and I've been recently appointed by the government of Montenegro to found a new institution called Directorate for Interculturalism at the Ministry of Human and Minority Rights. And We are building a new youth movement for social change exactly around these questions and working closely between the civic sector, which is the NGOs, the youth, and the entire society, and the government, rebuilding that trust and bonding them all towards regenerating and transforming our society for the better. So with that, if you agree, I have another lady here, the only lady with me. If you agree, I would like to give the floor first to our dear friend Mustafa Polat, who is coming from Turkey for Marmara University, because he is the host. And we start with a man and we'll layer our wisdom between masculine and feminine energies and principles. So Mustafa, if you are ready, the floor is yours, or the virtual space is yours.
Yeah, I think I'm ready, and I can go first if we decide to order like the reverse the order. So
Yes.
let me first.
I would like us to have a brief position up to 5 minutes,
Yeah.
every single one of us, in order to make sure I have time to talk to the youth and engage them. So we'll be as brief as possible as we can. Thank you. And to the
Yeah.
point.
Mine is going to be very brief, so let me share my presentation with you. And yeah, I assume you can see it right now.
Yes.
Yeah, as far as I can also follow from the video. So thanks for giving the floor. And first of all, I feel really excited about this event, although I would very much like to be there. Since I have a class that I can't cancel, today I had to join like the session online. But tomorrow I'll be there and meeting like the ones actually who are there in person. I'm also excited about it. So, as for my perspective related to our panel topic, I am an assistant professor of English language teaching, and my study area is in technology integration, like computer-assisted language learning and technology-enhanced language learning. So, I'll be approaching this same topic, intercultural understanding, from a technology and education perspective, especially considering, language as a means or language learning as a platform. So, I mean, like when we consider like what we have today, I mean, we know that in our world, like 5.2 billion people actually use the internet. So that makes almost 70% of the world. And the boundaries separating cultures are more minute than ever. So they are like, mixed, intermixed, and plus it's not that big like anymore. However, I mean, like we know that globalization has turned our planet into an interconnected web of interactions, which is good. I mean, it's swift, it's quick. I mean, right now, I mean, it's also an indicator of that. I can join the session online by using the internet, the technology as a tool, and it makes us like, connected. However, this unprecedented closeness also amplifies misunderstandings, stereotypes, and cultural divides as we follow things on like social media, especially previously Twitter, X, those kind of platforms actually can be the ground for people actually to also express this sort of some unprecedented, things as well. And the question is, how can education help us navigate this complexity with or without technology? I don't see a kind of context where we can do this without technology. So technology is just mostly normalized, I think, in our life. I mean, in most people's like on Earth, I can't say that like for 100% of it, but I mean, it's now mostly actually with technology. And I am also curious about the approach of the people actually who are listening to us right now. And I have just a quick code for you. Maybe I can also turn that into a little activity. I mean, as a teacher, as a professor, actually, I like, presenting things in a kind of like sort of activity. So please, give yourself a minute, maybe. I mean, that would be more than enough just to read this. And I want you to, like in mind or by speaking it out, I want you to complete that blank actually that we have there. Like this is a code about an invention. Maybe you have already seen that before. Maybe you know this code, but if not, I mean, you can remain silent if you know it. And I want you to complete this, blank. This is one of my favorite actually codes recently. So what do you think this invention that we have there? Is it like technology, computers, mobile phones, Google, or something else? Let me just give you some time. Okay. Do you think it's time? Maybe, I mean, Ms. Popovic, so if you can share some, because you have the microphone as far as I know. I mean, if there are like some answers that you can hear, maybe you can also share like a few of them.
So you would like me to share some answers if anybody has come up with some answers or? Maybe you can give a suggestion so that we can because we don't have much time. Maybe we
Okay,
can
I
at the
see.
end share
So
some insights.
yeah, I mean, this is like a kind of like good code in terms of like understanding people's approach to technology, especially AI these days. And when I just show this like code, usually my audience actually comes up with answers like, you know, it's technology, it's mobile phones, smartphones, because they make us like, you know, appear wise, but we're not wise without them, like things like that. How this code, like very interestingly, actually, I mean, dates back to 375 BC, and it's a code by Socrates. And now you may have some guesses, maybe because like we're talking about, you know, more than 2,000 years ago, and it's writing actually. I mean, this is how Socrates at the time and the people, maybe his followers as well, this is what actually they thought of like the invention of writing. So, I mean, right now we may have also some concerns about technology, about, you know, AI. But however, when it comes to interculturality, I think that's what, you know, keeps us connected. And that could be the solution by itself as well. Right now, I'm just going to focus on it. The role of technology in fostering intercultural understanding. Technology, I mean, in my opinion, especially AI, because AI is a little bit different from the technologies actually we have had so far. It's a transformative force in education. It enables personalized learning experiences tailored to diverse cultural contexts. I mean, for example, I guess everyone could be familiar with the app Duolingo. That's the most popular educational app. That's why I shaded it here. But the on the right, you see another application called Any. These kind of applications are based on large language models and natural language processing. So they can just help anyone, indeed, interested in learning a language or not. So they are just helping people learn, practice a language, but at the same time focusing on these cultural nuances because there are different characters you can chat with, and these are all AI based. And at the same time, AI chatbots and global collaboration platforms are also bridging gaps. In one program, there are studies actually on this. In one program, students from India, Taiwan, and the USA worked on climate change projects using AI tools, learning to collaborate across cultural divides. And this is something we can also consider planning in education, like, you know, teaching responsible AI, doing capacity building, and working on international collaboration. And then we can assess it, and the impact is usually huge. And finally, not just AI, but also virtual reality platforms. On the right again, you see an application, which is among my favorites, where you can actually see real people recorded, and you can just simulate a conversation with them. And this sort of VR simulations of different cultural settings in a study, actually done very recently, reported a significant increase in cultural empathy compared to traditional methods. So far, we can see a lot of affordances, a lot of benefits of technology, especially towards intercultural understanding. However, we should also accept the fact that technology is not without its challenges, especially, I mean, that's why actually I shared the code at the beginning. There could be bias against those technologies, plus the technologies itself or themselves can be biased as well, because AI is learning from the input that the developers provide. And if that input is biased, and the AI models actually will be biased as well. And we should also be aware of this fact And algorithms trained on biased data sets may fail to represent marginalized cultures accurately. That's why addressing this demands creating diverse data sets and auditing AI systems regularly. And they're getting better and better, by the way. I mean, I'm sure you're all familiar with like ChatGPT. It's only 2 years old. And when you compare it, how it was 2 years ago and now, there is a lot of like development and improvement considering whether it's biased or not. Another challenge, the digital divide. Of course, we have digital natives, people who are born into technology, and we have digital immigrants, as we use the so-called terms. It also becomes a major hurdle, and nearly 33% of the global population still lacks internet access. And bridging this divide is crucial for equitable intercultural education as well. So internet access to these resources becomes also critical. And when we are taking actions, I think this is something we need to consider as well, the major actions or minor actions. So moving forward, the vision for AI-enhanced education, to leverage AI effectively, we need deliberate strategies for sure, as I said. First, there are like 3 things I would like to share and then I'll be done. First, fostering cultural intelligence through AI-driven intercultural simulations. I mean, imagine AI-powered global classrooms where students debate universal challenges like climate change or inequality, guided by cultural insights. I mean, yesterday I listened to some talks, and I remember comments about like sustainable development goals. I mean, we have only a few years to complete them, but we are still behind the schedule. I think maybe AI is something that can, quicken the process or helps with that. And second, we must integrate ethical AI education, of course. I mean, like Lee reminds us that AI is made by humans and affects humans. So we should, be emphasizing the need for human-centric AI development, because most people are also concerned that AI is going to replace them. I mean, these kind of concerns should be dealt with as well. And finally, international mobility programs can be enhanced with AI translation. I don't know whether you used AI translators. I mean, some of them are even built in actually, like smartphones. I mean, they can also help people for like in terms of improved adaptability and also conflict resolution skills, because language could be a barrier at some point, even though English is one of the, like medium languages, like as a lingua franca, but still, I mean, language could become a barrier, and like this sort of AI solutions can help with that as well. So as educators, like we are not just preparing students for jobs, but for global citizenship. And by making use of AI and technology responsibly, of course, we can cultivate generations who not only understand, but also value the richness of cultural diversity. And this is like, when we are planning education, this is education's ultimate promise in our interconnected era. And this is not something we can like ignore. So we need to work on this so that, I mean, we can also help with the use of technology in education to cultivate interculturality. So thank you. I hope I am within the time limit, and hope I have been able to present my viewpoints.
Thank you, Mustafa. That was wonderful. Well, you took us straight into the present moment, and I'm going to take just a second to clarify something. Apparently, what Mustafa is talking about, that the intercultural refers to the relationship between the processor and the machine and the man, the human, right? So if you know the term cyborg, that we have already are becoming a mixed human machine, right? And processor enhanced human. So interculturalism in that, or intercultural in that sense, refers to the relationship between these two different entities. And that Mustafa is pointing out what it is that will be beneficial to human relationships when we are enhanced by technology, which it has the capacity, particularly immersive technology, to put you literally in the shoes of another, to put you in the perspective of another person, so you can actually understand another person better through immersive technology, or can connect us better. But equally, Mustafa was pointing out that because humans are coding and feeding information into processors, that's how all the biases and prejudices and ignorance and fear can also be coded into the machine and accelerated and intensified for potentially destroying each other. So this is what's at stake. This is what intercultural means as well, which I really appreciate, Mustafa. You started from this point, and I will just conclude here with my remark and clarification that humans have always been what is called prosthetic beings, prosthesis. You know what that means, right? We have always extended our biological capacities by an external invention. So you have glasses, for example, right? You fix your teeth, you have glasses, you have a prosthetic leg, or you have machinery or computer. You have always enhanced your powers by our invention. Human being is also human because it's curious. It's never going to stop inventing. The only question is what and who and how our inventions are serving. Who is benefiting from them? What is the goal, right? So these are the ethical questions that Mustafa was also mentioning. So now I would like to introduce our dear friend, new friend, Helena Mustakova, who is evolutionary leader, co-founder of Unity, Justice, and Global Security Synergy Circle, and founder of the Integralite Institute for Consciousness, Society, and Wellbeing. Welcome, Helena.
Thank you. Just for context, we're now transitioning from technology and language into somebody like myself who has dedicated 4 decades to the study of the invisible human dimension. So I was a tenured professor in humanistic and transpersonal psychology, as well as clinician and trainer of therapists for many years. And we work with that dimension, which is responsible for what we code into technological programs, and also what we code into writing in the excerpt from Socrates. Ultimately, whether it's writing or computer programs, we are putting our understanding. So when we talk about intercultural understanding and education for intercultural understanding in the new millennium, certainly in the 21st century, the first thing that we have to recognize is that we are finding ourselves, all of us, at the threshold of an evolutionary leap. And so we need competencies and skills that actually prepare us to enter and participate consciously and competently in this leap. So what are these competencies and skills? I would say that one very important competence for intercultural understanding is the historical competence, understanding that human societies have evolved from small circles that were understood, familiar, and trusted. The family, the tribe, the city-state, the nation-state, and even though it appears that we're still living in a world governed by nation-states, that is as helpful as it is right now also a bit of a problem, because people are having a hard time realizing that the nation-state is not the ultimate human socio-historical formation, that in fact we're now living in what is more and more a planetary civilization. So from the point of view of historical competence, people have understood self and the other very differently in tribal relationships, in city-state relationships, in nation-state relationships where you're either a citizen of a country or an alien, and now in a planetary civilization of which you all, young people, are the beneficiaries and the citizens. So that historical competence is important. Another competence that is very important is evolutionary understanding. And that's something that many of you may not have been exposed to yet, but there is plenty of evidence and knowledge now that human consciousness actually evolves, not just develops in the personal lifespan, but evolves collectively. And these evolutionary stages in collective consciousness have each served a very adaptive purpose in their time. What is really challenging at this time in the world is that different evolutionary stages of collective consciousness are coexisting in our planetary civilization, and unfortunately clashing with each other because we have not understood how to relate to these different stages. So what is really a competence here? When we have the opportunity to do this kind of intercultural education, which goes deeper, we actually learn the value and the dignity of each evolutionary worldview. Because each stage of collective consciousness actually manifests in a worldview which has its own value and dignity. And even when it appears that different worldviews are in conflict, for example, the law and order, relatively nationalistic worldview and level of consciousness often conflicts with the ecological integrative worldview, which is a different stage of collective consciousness. We have to understand what it looks like to enter into dialogue across these different worldviews and to come up with consultative solutions. Now that takes me to some skills, and I would say that the most important set of skills that are to be taught in the coming future that are not taught to my knowledge yet in universities are consultative skills. Consultation is very different than debate, it's very different than conversation.
I think the screen freezed, right?
Yeah, it's the
Yes,
same
Mr.
here.
Rich.
Yes.
You're out of the game.
Are they out or we're out?
We are out. Let's
We're
have
out, I think.
let's have a Turkish coffee. I mean, the sound is very bad because they don't have a direct microphone. Apparently, they have a microphone from the room, so there's a lot of echo in the presentation.
To me, it's a little bit. Oh, it's okay actually. I can hear them well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Where are you sitting? Are you in Singapore?
No, I'm in Singapore, and I got cold
Yeah.
because of the warm temperature.
Yeah. We are sitting at the entrance door of the winter, to the winter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm flexible. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. I just want to talk for a couple of minutes about the subject, to the topic of the session. But if we are out for another 5 minutes, I don't know what we're gonna say then. Because
Actually, I'm not sure whether we're completely out because like this channel is being broadcasted to YouTube. So if they are just projecting it from YouTube, maybe they can also still hear us. I'm not sure about that.
but they would interfere, I guess.
Yeah, of course. We have the admins here.
I'm just checking if all the viewers having the same problem as we have.
Yeah.
the other viewers have the same condition as we have, and they can listen to us. They don't hear the discussion in the audience.
And I have checked YouTube just right now, the live broadcast, and this is what they are broadcasting right now. I mean, we are being broadcast on YouTube as we are speaking.
Yes, I know. I just realized that before. They can listen to our conversation, but they can't listen. They can't hear the conversation in the audience.
Yeah, I hope they'll resolve it actually in minutes.
Since we are all in YouTube, maybe we can start talking. Reynold, maybe you can start.
No,
So
we need to have the go from the moderator, I guess.
we can have a parallel panel here. I mean, yeah, that's possible.
Yeah. Let the audience do have the chance to listen. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I see 17 participants.
Please go ahead. I think there are Q&A. People are looking, reading. Would you continue, Mr. Allen?
okay, I can if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, dear viewers from afar and not people in the audience in Istanbul. I'm going to talk about a concept, the concept of global understanding. And the background is that I organized an International Year of Global Understanding, initiated it and organized it up to a UNESCO resolution for a UN International Year on Global Understanding. And I'm going to talk about the experiences I made in all over the world with more than 30 regional action centers based in different regions across the globe. So my experience is that the history of schools is still very important. And we have to understand that the curriculum of schools, of public schools worldwide, are based on decisions on the second half of the 19th centuries when in most European countries, education became a public affair. So then people were discussing the issue, what should be taught in schools, in parliaments or in different ministries. And there was a lot of competition between different fields of knowledge. And finally, some of them made it. And the implication of that is what the World Academy of Arts and Science, but also the Club of Rome and many other organizations are criticizing, is that they were building silos of knowledge, and that the silos are closed. I think this is only one part of the problem. The other part is what it's involved in the discipline. It's a disciplinization of knowledge. That means that what is taught in school is controlled by disciplines and their methods. So, and what data are important, and disciplines have been formed for the national interest to serve national interest in technology, but especially also the economy and imperialistic strategies and so on, from Europe at least. And this disciplining is based on a methodology of each discipline. So in fact, schools are still today organized in a national logic. Elena has just mentioned in her presentation. And not only that, disciplines are also organizing their data in national statistic and so on, serving to ministries and so on. So we have a worldview that is based on national interests of education and a set of disciplines that are trying to master the big variety of realities across the globe. So when we are entering in what Mustafa told us in the first presentation, the interconnectedness of people to technical tools in real time. So when we want to communicate, then we can say, okay, communication is expressed in English, and more or less we agree on that, at least so far. But then the worldviews behind it are still based on the national logic. So we have added national logics to an international worldview. But this can't be the solution, because we need to have a global understanding of our own living forms of living, life worlds that is localized in certain places and certain historical moments, as Jelena pointed correctly. So if you're going to talk to other people living in other contexts, we first of all have to make clear with the people on site how they are think, and making children see their own living conditions, local living conditions, in a global perspective. That would be, in my view, the only solution to overcome the ongoing nationalization of global realities. So the idea is that people are understanding one another.
Shall we just turn him up?
Hello?
No, it's, we can turn him
Can
up
you
from
hear me
here.
now? Can you hear me now? I guess you guys have your own parallel session
Here we go.
while you are off from, can you hear me? So we'll just hand off the audio and the audio space to you, the virtual space to you. Elena had a wonderful conversation with us about consciousness as the basis of reality and what that means in terms of education and in terms of intercultural understanding and competencies. So we'll hand that over to you, Yiheng Cheng.
Oh, well, I think Benno has started, and then it's almost ending. Although we have taken the liberty to change the sequence because we were.
Give us your insight so that we can maximize on our time here, and I'll get back to Benno.
Okay, if you so. Sorry for this voice, because I have really a sour throat. I think to me, I have actually this text which I would like to address first. We should not ignore the differences between East and West, South and North. There are differences. However, we have to be open-minded and be guided by our own real self with compassion that triggers everything. We need to see every activities as a process that should co-evolve with the people, environment, and society involved. To become a person like such is the aim of education. So it's not necessary to elaborate too much, but I think the basic concept here is we do need, let's say, once you want to have to become an open-minded person, then you have to be self-confident enough. And even you are able to do that with that, well, when we say this today, is such a plurality and also multi-races and multicultural world. It's not only China and non-China, and that's it. So it's a totally different culture, and even China itself have a number of different cultures. So, and with all this background, ChatGPT can assist us to a certain extent, but the judgment, so the people have to learn to judge by themselves. Even they are open-minded, but they still be able to judge, and that is critical. And where to judge, it is always coming back to the real self, and that real self is started with compassion. So when we see a process, well, we do anything, it's a process. It's not a point, single point. It's a connected sequent events. So it is a co-evolve. I'm talking about many cases today, especially under development or even in the economic, I would say, happenings today, such as, fighting against the, EV with high pressure, high tax, or fighting against the overcapacity of Chinese, etc., etc. All this is a co-evolution process. So Chinese have to understand when we have excess capacity, it doesn't mean that people just want to use your goods, and they also need to evolve, or then also use. They have to grow together with you, and not just let you come in and then close the other shops. So these are the co-evolution process. Maybe at the end, I just mentioned there is a long discussion during the Club of Rome in the 1980s, before actually Audio Picture died. That's 1984. And at that time, they have already, Club of Rome has formed one sentence, because after 10 years of limit to growth, Club of Rome understand the solution cannot come out with science alone. It has to be the next part, or the coexist one is the humanity. And humanity doesn't mean the mention, people being. No, it's a humanity is the original real self. And there are quite a number of discussions on that. And unfortunately, even Chinese have made the translation in 1984. I got it. And these are the books, why they are still available, because I think it's difficult to read. Even it is written in Chinese, translated, but it's very difficult to read. And that's why even in Taobao, I still can buy these books today in fresh. So you see that even in a country like China with a long history of humanity or culture, we're not able to adopt the other culture or the other different thinking. Thank you. That's my contribution.
Thank you so much, Yi-Heng Cheng. And Ben, are you there? I'll call on you in a little bit so that you can actually give your introductory points, since we need to listen to you here. So I'll use this a little bit of a breathing space between speeches, so that maybe reflects now what we heard from Yi-Heng Cheng. If we think about those geostrategic situation in the world right now, a minute ago we talked about the self, right? You as the individual thinking, and yesterday, another session in the plenary session, we started opening up the question of personal identity, that you are not one identity. Even if you identify yourself nationally as Turkish, I don't know if you might be Roma, if you might be Kurdish as well, if you're male, female, what your other orientation is. If, like I said earlier, you are a passionate chess player or chess champion, or, you know, there are many, many, many identities and roles and you play in other people's lives equally as they play in your life. So we spoke earlier about the very personal council of self. In a way, this is what Yi-Heng Cheng mentioned, as the self is the starting multicultural being. We are multicultural from within. But we look at the macro scale and the geostrategic situation right now. What Yi-Heng Cheng is referring to is the relationship with China, which is also political, economic, financial. There's been recently a new wave of parents who want their children to study Chinese because they read in newspapers that this is what's coming next. And they want their children to be prepared for the Chinese, say, dominating the markets or something like that. We have a situation with Russia, where we have an entire massive nation who is multicultural from within, that we are alienating from the political scene, right? And we have different changing views of our politicians in our own countries. Where do we go? How do we reach understanding, not to mention some sensitive places in the world, such as the Balkans, such as Ukraine, such as Palestine and Israel? I mean, how do you practice, for some of you that might be studying a different track, instead of language or engineering that you might need as well, because you might be building things in Africa or Middle East. But also for you that are doing political science, how do you practice cultural diplomacy with the intercultural capacities that you need for the modern world? That will ensure more peaceful world, more sustainable world, better quality of life for every single one of us, right? Better quality of life socially as well, not ecologically, biologically, monetarily, but also psychologically and socially. To feel good in the world. Do we feel good in the world right now? Looking at the youth, I'm not looking at others right now. Unfortunately, the others typically are making decisions. But I'm thinking about youth because I'm concerned about youth. We don't seem to be happy, and we don't seem to be fulfilled, and we don't seem that we are leading a purposeful life. You are only responding to the expectations of the adults and the ones in charge. So how does all of this talk about intercultural dialogue translate into our personal, professional, political lives? And also, how does this intercultural dialogue, we're adding dimensions, mean intergenerational understanding? You see? So from speaker to speaker, we've been layering the relationship of in the interface between the machine and the human, right? Then we talked about the relationship amongst nations and within nations. Now, then we talked about the geopolitical larger story of power play. But we're also talking about intergender relationship between men and women and between generations, the elders and the young. And you know, especially in more traditional societies and with strong values, there can be a clash. That can be a big clash. I've taken some time just because I want to make sure that we understand the scope of intercultural. Benno, are you there? Benno, are you still there?
He's speaking. He's
Are
actually
you,
speaking.
unmute yourself, please. If you can make an entry
Here
here,
he is.
I mean, time is up now, isn't it?
We can hear you now, Benno. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. So what is your what is your suggestion? I was giving my talk and I was too far
That's
through.
okay. My concern is that we have wonderful youth here and wonderful audience here. And we've been adding dimensions of intercultural understanding and interculturalism. So it would be very useful, not to mention the fact that we have a very diverse, here. Ben, are you Austrian or German? Or I'm completely wrong?
Okay, I mean, I can summarize what I wanted to say.
Do you hear me? Sorry, we have Montenegro, Bulgaria, USA, China, Turkey. Who else do we have? Germany. So go ahead, Benno, if you can sum up quickly and make some points for us
Okay.
And then your speech has been recorded, but for the audience here. Thank you.
Okay. In very brief, I initiated and organized the International Year of Global Understanding up to a UNESCO resolution for a UN International Year. And I want to just report the key experiences of that whole process over 15 years in respect of the topic of this session. My conclusion is that the fundamental problem of global understanding is that the schools are still following the curricula that have been established in most European countries in the second half of the 20th century. And that's a problem because the discipline have been forged and designed for national interests, and the disciplines were also established for national interest, economical interest, political interest, military interest, and so on. And we can see today that these disciplines are criticized very often as knowledge silos. WAS is making this point, the Club of Rome is making this point. I think this is only the half of the problem. The real problem is the disciplination of knowledge, that we are teaching children knowledge that is the basis for scientific work and not for everyday life in different parts of the world with different cultural backgrounds and so on. So what we should work on, in my view, if you want to have an so-called intercultural understanding on cooperation, that we need to tell children that children learn to see their own living conditions in different places of the world in a global perspective, understanding how much they are embedded in global processes and understanding what the consequences is of their everyday life for other people in other parts of the world. So if we are working on this, that means introducing transdisciplinary topics in schools. And then we have to learn about the own history in different places, the cultural backgrounds, and if everybody would do that, so then we have a basis for a global understanding of culturally embedded, historically embedded, and also nationally embedded realities. And that could be a basis for a real cultural specification and a respectful way to talk to one another and to cooperate one another. That's in short my ideas. I'm sorry for the shortness and maybe some incoherence, but I was not able to do it better 3 minutes instead of 5. Thank you very much for your attention.
Benno, it actually wrapped up and rounded off the insight because it's an invitation to you students, right? To see how you are as an individual in all of your identities embedded in global processes, the kind of agency you might be able to derive to get a sense of social power from gaining this kind of intercultural knowledge, right? That is the most significant thing, because what all of us are basically saying, that you can gain skills, capacities, and social agency for the decisions you're making in your own life, as well as a political, econo-political subject in your country, right? As well as a global or planetary citizenship. So on the scale of microcosm that you are, and your place in the macrocosm, in the larger society and global society, these are the skills that you're going to need now and in the future even more. If you want to just play that quickly, even more, you're going to need these skills to orient yourself in the world, an increasingly technologically connected world. So you can leave it at that, and if we have time, which I don't know, we'll just leave it there. So my suggestion is, because we started a bit late and we have maybe 5 more minutes, or no? Okay, yes. So I would like to, I'll give microphone over to Elena, because she wanted to make a point. But I would like to ask you to think of what it is that you would like to learn in terms of orienting yourself within Turkey, in the Balkans, in the Mediterranean, in the world right now, because that's a set of circles in which you are immersed at university as well. What it is that you would like to learn, what kind of education and what kind of subject matter in the curricula that you have right now would be beneficial to you to orient yourself better in your life, in your country, and as well as outside.
Just wanted to draw your attention on one particular emphasis that a Chinese colleague brought to your attention that I think got a little bit lost. I don't know if you heard him say this, but he spoke about co-evolving with compassion. I would say that is a very deep competence that we need to reflect on. How do we co-evolve along with others who are very different from us with compassion? What does that mean? Vis-a-vis the tendency of many generations of human culture to dominate airspace, dominate land, dominate power. And then we're talking, and our Chinese colleague was talking about co-evolving with compassion. This is a paradigm shift in the world, which can be talked about or it could be actually modeled and exhibited. What does it look like for us to work with others in such a way that we not only don't dominate, but we open space to co-evolve with compassion across our differences as we are forming this planetary civilization for all. So I just wanted to bring us back to that, because there's a lot that gets talked about, but then there are some deep dimensions that are easily left overlooked, invisible, that are actually critical. Thank you.
Perfect. Any questions or comments? Especially from you? Yes? Yes?
Hello, everybody. I'm supposed to look at the students, but so I'm Delia Manning, and I'm the president of an NGO called Graines de Paix, which means the seeds for peace. And just today, this morning, or while I was on, just before we started, I was with my pedagogical team, and they are faced with a no. The teachers don't want to hear this. The teachers don't want to learn. They want to do what we were just told not to do, which is to stay in their discipline. This is their 13 to 15-year-old classrooms, and we have a whole program to teach what you're saying with all the skills of me, you, the others. What can I say? And the togetherness. This is if you're in peace education, per definition, this is what we do. So we have books on this. They're validated by the system in Switzerland. But the teachers themselves, we have to find a way to reach them. So what I suggested today, I don't know if it will work, but I had to find a solution for my team. And I said, if the teachers are resistant, why not make believe that the students are the teachers, that they are going to learn the skills, the way we organize the classroom into collaborative studying, participative, active participative studying, democratic studying. And then the students will show with a lot of pride how this will be done to the teacher. And their reaction was not good. They said the teacher will feel insulted. So I hope they will succeed with this idea. But the whole idea of raising consciousness, a group of people who are so afraid of themselves because they have the teachers, they haven't done this inner work. So as students who will maybe become teachers one day, everything we have heard here is totally true, that we're changing scale, education will no longer be learning this and then learning that. It will be learning how to solve an issue. And we will need some math, we will need some language, we'll need some historical background, we'll need some cultural understanding, but we will no longer be learning by silos. So yes, if we're studying medicine, we need to study also medicine. But if you study only medicine, you make bad doctors. A good doctor first is connected with his patient. That's the most successful way of creating his recovery. You will not make him recover just with technology. So if I can finish on that, that's.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I am going to invite you quickly to stay in this room. I have colleagues, dear colleagues of mine, who will actually speak about biases, hallucinations, and misinformation and prejudice being encoded into AI. So we started from, remember, we started from AI and the interface between human and machine, right? Now we're going to have specialists that are going to discuss exactly that. How we're coding and how we might be dangerously coding. Uroš, if you don't mind, since while you guys settle in, you will be leading. I want to show you something real quick. So I'm gonna set the stage real quick. It's okay, it's working. Okay, thank you. So this is what's happening on the existential risk side. This is all we have going on. But this is what's converging on the innovation and technology and science side. Between the two, we can be smashed like this. Humanity can perish between the two, right? I just wanna, why is this boy a black boy? Not because he's my poster child, but because there's an uneven distribution of disaster in the world. And these are the children that are suffering. I want you to see this guy real quick. This is the guy who 20 years ago, 2004, Neil, his name is Neil, he had an antenna instilled in his skull. So his friends, 5 of them in the world, can color his dreams, send him music, create aesthetic states in his life. So Facebook and all that and Instagram, okay, 20 years ago. So where the technology is going to go depends on our understanding on social cohesion, on coming together to decide what we are going to do with technology, okay? So this is it. I'm going to leave it at that. Let's set the stage for you.
Thank you very much. So, we'll continue. We're
Yes.
missing the panelists for this. Can we go back to the demo? So we are basically missing a panelist. My name is Uroš Šrampar. I come from Slovenia, Južni Svetom Institute. And I'm also a professor as well as a fellow of WAS. With me here, I have another colleague of mine, Saulo Bahia. He's a federal judge in Brazil, professor of law at the Federal University of Bahia, a trustee of WAS and a fellow of WAS. And with us, do we have?
She's not here.
Online, we are also missing.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like she's here.
Just to join. So the second panel is going to be Anika Rao Bonari. She's the CEO, co-founder of 3AI, and she's going to join us online. But with this, I would like to open this panel by which is dealing with addressing errors, cultural bias, and hallucination in AI-based and traditional education. So the statement which we will work on is hallucination is never new, nor it is a monopoly of AI. Human thinking has always been fraught with the mental, social, and cultural biases born of past experiences. The quest of science is to reduce the occurrence of an error, presumption, misconception, and prejudice. This session will seek to learn from recent experiences in AI and become more conscious of the influence of factual distortions in prevailing education and the developed ways to reduce errors, biases in both AI and traditional education. It sounds very complex, But we're gonna try to actually break down this to key ideas and applications. I wrote here four major ones, but the first one is hallucination and AI versus human thinking, which we need to work on. So basically AI hallucination, if you don't know this, AI generates outputs which are factually incorrect or nonsensical. Often due to limitation in training data or algorithms, this actually reflects in a hallucination. The same way, human hallucination refers metaphorically in the ways human thinking can be distorted by biases, misconception, flow reasoning processes, which is similar to AI. And like AI relies on training data, which is basically the human way past experiences. And then, we both are failable, but in different ways. Second point should be a role of science in mitigation errors, which is because hallucination are actually based on errors. So science of both processes and discipline is fundamentally about reducing those errors and biases. This is what we need to know about this. And third is intersection of AI and education. We need to understand, how to actually improve this. So and potentially highlight and address the biases in human education. So we can actually so if you have AI system feedback, you can identify patterns of bias in teaching materials or students, or you can have adaptive learning systems. And the fourth, I think we should focus at the end to practical implications, what that means for AI development, in terms of mechanisms to detect the correct hallucinations, and for education, which encourages the meta recognition. I would start first with our colleague online. So we would give ladies first hand. Anika, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. So you're coming basically from the education, from the entrepreneurship background, which
Yes.
deals with the practical applications. Please, can you tell us a little bit about this in your experience?
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. I think, from my perspective, one of the most, people speak about hallucinations and this concept of a fundamental truth that theoretically exists, that we all fundamentally agree on. But the question that I often have is does that really exist? Is that really true? I mean, in the sense of, if you look at historical textbooks that are in education in schools, for example, I personally grew up in a variety of different countries. And, it was interesting to see the same matter being discussed from a completely different perspective. And the truths that we were examined on were not truths in other places. And, the question is, I think one of the questions that hasn't really been posed yet, in my opinion, is what would a truthful AI actually look like, right? So if we were to take the premise that it was possible to have no hallucinations, is there even a definition that we as a society can agree on of what an AI would behave like if it were zero hallucinations and it was honest? What kind of answers should it give? Should it give all perspectives? Are some perspectives wrong? Maybe some people value more news outlets or different news outlets than other people do. So at what point and how do we kind of tackle that problem, starting with almost, you mentioned practical application as an entrepreneur working with very large companies and also small companies. You always want to start with the product requirements and the kind of needs of the people and what you're solving for. And I think that there's like a really important and underspoken about lack of clarity on what's required. And I think if we got to the point where we actually agreed on, okay, what does without biases mean? what does without hallucinations mean, because people make things up all the time, right? If we can get an answer to that question, then we can build it. I'm confident we can build it, but I don't think we really know what that is yet.
Do you have any ideas, is there any current push in the industry in order to actually do this kind of things? So develop the mechanisms for direct or, current hallucinations.
It's an interesting, so the problem that we have fundamentally right now that everyone's kind of scrambling around is that 97% of the world's data is locked away, right? So AIs are actually only trained on 3% of the world's data. And the problem with that, it's basically publicly available data on the internet, and all the AIs kind of have the same data. The problem is, there's like an extra dimension to that data that's certainly missing, which is, what would be required in order to answer some of these questions, which is, okay, what makes this source reliable under what conditions, right? It's like almost like the user behavior or the user interaction with that data, and their kind of valuation of it, and then assimilating attributes across the users that were engaging with it and like that versus other ones, and maybe seeing if we can group populaces together based on how much they like certain data versus other data, or what have you, so that we can present it in different ways and experiment in that dimension is what I'm saying. We don't have that data, let alone, the 400 million small businesses in the world. They keep their financials, they keep their customer data, all of these in a variety of SaaS products, in papers. No AI has access to any of that data. So in terms of being able to even get to solving a problem like that, it feels like we're so far away from even scratching the surface of data that gives us even an understanding of what the implications of a hallucination are, or what the implications of a cultural bias are to people and their behavior. In terms of the pushes to get there, I can say I've worked on projects, and my company, we're very much focused on trying to retrieve that data. So as the large language models become more fundamentally stable and robust, people are starting now to think more about the application layer, and they're starting to think, okay, how do we build an application for education, for maybe being able to let students be more fascinated and take their curiosity and dive deeper into a topic if it's not in the curriculum, for example. People are starting to think about these kinds of applications, which is great. The only problem is those applications require a certain amount of data, and over time they'll generate a certain amount of data that will be useful for the AI. But because of the approach we're taking right now, which is very much like, let's use what we have and let's try and push forward and let's try and impress the world, and let's try and, we assume that AI is this omnipotent thing. Really, it knows 3% of what, collectively we know as a society. And fundamentally, I think we have to work on that problem first. And we need to work on defining, once you analyze some of that other data and those other dimensions, what does that mean in terms of what the outcome we want as a society is for what does hallucination mean? How do we deal with that? What does bias mean? How do we deal with that? So I think the industry is moving towards caring about data, but right now we're not at the point yet where people fundamentally realize we can't really progress unless we define the data that we need and define the outcomes we need, and then find the data and aggregate it in order to create these applications that will help.
Okay, what about the misuse, of this kind of hallucinations? Now we're talking about positive effects, but there could be negative. If you're generating just enough of false data, you can actually cause mass hallucinations. So this would definitely lead to a misuse of data and false hallucinations, not improvement. Would this be a feasible statement and something that we should be worried at the same time, as we're trying to correct errors? Because the correction of errors depends on a large number of data, so if the data, generated is false, you will have anyway false, it will lead
Yeah.
to false.
It's a good point. The problem that I have is really like, how do you define false? Like at what point, what makes something false, right? There are some obvious things, of course. There's some obvious things, of course. There's obviously some basic truths, right? Like if someone asks, what is 15 plus 2 and the thing answers 20, that's a very clear hallucination of information. The question is, why did it answer like that? And that's probably kind of a poor example, but if you said, what happened in or who won World War I, right? I mean, fundamentally, if you that's a complicated question, right? Or, not to bring up something controversial, but with the current wars and things going on, like who's right, as a question. How are we supposed to answer a question like that? How's an AI supposed to answer a question like that? And so when it comes to errors, I mean, I think for me, the solution fundamentally is really to get people to understand the sources of information and make those very, very clear. And for the AI to allow people to draw conclusions, or to get it to draw conclusions from a specific subset of sources that they trust and that they kind of want to believe in. And that is a function of a variety of things, fundamental belief, but then also where your country, your cultural kind of bias. But I don't really until we as humans define what that means.
Objection, and sorry to stop.
No problem.
Since it's let's say democratic discussions.
Hi, thank you. My name is Jonathan Branoff. I'm the Senior Advisor of the Committee on National Security of the International Law Section of the American Bar Association. That's an association of lawyers. And you're making a good faith analysis that there could be different perspectives on the same fact pattern, which obviously might be irreconcilable and quite different, but all presuming that there's a good faith attempt to portray the truth. But a much greater danger is the intentional, malicious use of knowingly lying and creating false realities, creating hallucinations in the part of the receiver of information in order to distort and crush democracy. In the 3 weeks before the last presidential election of the United States, the social media of much of the youth was designed to convince them that all political candidates were unworthy of their trust, that the entire realm of politics was outside of their concern because it was so complicated and there was so much lying that much of the youth of my country sat out the election. And they sat out the election because they were being lied to, but there wasn't time to rectify the lies. So this was creating hallucinations intentionally, which is very different than good faith differences of opinion. So, and also, because of the nature of the internet is anonymity, it's impossible in a short period of time to force the perpetrators to identify themselves. So much of the social media in my country looked like other students saying one of the political candidates was a prostitute, had prostituted herself. And so some of the women said, well, we can't tolerate this. Or if you vote for this candidate, she's going to bring you into World War III. These things were intentional misuse.
I understand.
So could you address the distinction between
Yes.
good faith, different perspectives, which are open to debate, and the intentional malicious use of the internet and digital technologies to distort democracy?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
Annika, just short feedback comment, and then I think we got a nice introduction to our next panelist. Annika, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that sounds perfect. I think to address that point, I think, you know, I would make 2 points. The first one is I completely agree that I don't know if this is just limited to AI. I think this might be technology and social media in general as like a concept, right? I think AI might allow you to scale it fundamentally. But you know, it can be used as a force for good in the sense of you know, even today, so fundamentally, one of the things that I think is in terms of education, tying all the way back to that, I think in the realm and the world of AI, students need to be educated on questioning the validity of information and questioning the sources of information and understanding how to verify information and understanding the importance of doing so. And one of the problems that I think exists is that people aren't really doing that. And the AIs, and you're right, fundamentally, we're not, you know, because there's no demand, because people aren't doing that, we're not catering to that. We're not catering to applications where it's like, okay, let's look at where this information comes from. Is this real or is this not? What's the source of this information? And you know, why are they saying this? What are their intentions? And I think that is a really important thing to include in any AI. And it was kind of what I was trying to get at earlier, but I probably wasn't really that clear about it, is that I think in my personal opinion, every AI response should be sourced with all the information that it came from, and all of those sources of information should be fundamentally you know, questionable, and it would have all the information around it that you can use to question the integrity of the source, the intention behind the source, and you know, where it came from, and similar kind of sources to that, and be able to essentially understand and have a provenance trail of some of the information that is being put out. I think all AIs in their responses should certainly do that. But I also think that it's valuable to use AI as a means to, for some of the examples you were giving about the election, to actually use as a tool to be able to question those things when they arise on social media. For example, even as like a Chrome extension, or you know, something like this. So again, I would always go back to the kind of provenance of information that's being used to generate responses, and the kind of intention and understanding of the intention behind their usage of, or their portrayal of information as a fundamental dimension of data that needs to be provided by AI and by the internet in general, which AI can facilitate.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is a good introduction to our next speaker, panelist, who's going to give also a short introduction. So please.
Thank you, and welcome to the last completed session panel. Only two speakers, me and my colleague Annika, and I'd like to say congratulations to you for this beautiful building, beautiful university with a lot of classes. And the idea, the impression that we had when we enter at the building
We are unable to hear your voice, Solo Bhagya.
Unmute. Okay, unmute. Now is again. Okay. Okay, now is, are you hearing me? She's muted. But let's.
We can hear you.
Yeah, nice. The idea that the moderator told us at the beginning was hallucinations is neither new or nor is it a monopoly of artificial intelligence. Human thinking has always been through with mental, social, cultural biases, work of past experience, and the request of science to reduce the recurrence of error, presumption, misconception, and prejudice. So let me start. I don't know why it works with him, but it didn't work with me. It's okay. No, okay. No. Yes, let's go now. Let's go. Well, I put here, there is two different kinds of bias, a data bias and algorithmic bias, two different kind of things. When we have that data input bias, this will create a biased output. It's more or less a technical error. We can say that because unfair data or algorithms will produce undesirable malfunction, interference caused by wrong or incomplete data or programming. This is the definition of technical error. And some errors came from data mistakes and or data are not clear, data are not complete, data are false. Data can distort our comprehension of the reality if the data are not complete. And sometimes it's the program that is the algorithm that has some problems, some troubles, because the variables that we put, that we imagine that we will occur, don't occur. So we will have a bad programming in this case. So we will have bias, algorithmic bias. So we can create, in some cases, from data or from bad algorithms, technical mistakes that will or reproduce gender prejudices, social status prejudices, racial prejudices, because if the data is contaminated or used by them, they will appear in our output. So it's I can say that is a generalization error, but we can see a kind of technical error. We can say that there is this error due to the generative artificial intelligence operation, the opaqueness of and because we don't know exactly what the generative artificial intelligence does when it works. Once I heard from a Google programmer that he knows the input, he knows the output, but he doesn't know exactly what happens between the input and the output, because the generative artificial intelligence thinks by itself. So he cannot control the output exactly. So this kind of opaqueness is what we call black box problem. And this is technical errors from data from algorithm, data technical errors. But as my colleague John Granoff told us, there are intentional actions also in which unfair algorithm and desirable effects are expected by the programmer. And we can see interferences caused by particular interests, fake news, misinformation, disinformation. And nowadays our political elections, our political life is dominated by this kind of intentional bias. It's a great interference in our will, in what we know about the candidates, what we feel about the candidates, what we feel about the other candidates, and so it's very complicated. Let me advance. In education, we can say that this kind of use of artificial intelligence, the use of artificial intelligence in education can bring to us the bias and algorithm discrimination. We have the data failures, we have hallucinations. It's very common to ask for ChatGPT something, and ChatGPT bring to us a complete hallucination. In law, sometimes we try to use the ChatGPT, and ChatGPT brings to us precedents that never existed. Yes, and it's very common. And I was at my department analyzing a project from a candidate to the PhD. And a colleague of mine will be his director of thesis. And he read the project and told, well, my ideas are so clear. We know all my ideas and we wrote better than me. The problem is this article I never wrote. And this journal never existed. ChatGPT created this hallucination, and the candidate was not classified. And we have, with the use in education, the big issue about the authorship plagiarism. But we have Professor Mukdar from Mahma. Even when the books appeared, Socrates was against the books because the books could break the memory and maybe can create the risk of plagiarism. And we solved this problem nowadays. We have tools to identify the plagiarists. But it's privacy concerns, lack of ability to translate, calculate, like the calculator used by students, they don't allow them to use because they will not learn how to do by themselves the calculations. Lots of critical thinking, reduced attention span, concentration, reduction of memory formation. What more we can say in education, reinforcing stereotypes. Why? Because if the data have bias, it's very common to reproduce this bias in our outputs. So we will maintain the society like the society perceives itself. Achievement gap, widening. People say that some artificial intelligence programs, softwares have to be paid, so poor people will not have the same opportunities than richer people. Lack of representation of the diversity reality. If you have data bias, it's really very complicated. And then the solution is in education, it's the same solution that we can imagine And for the artificial intelligence, the solution that all the regulation that the governments are trying to establish in the whole world, in each country or internationally, is the same. The idea is always appeal for transparency, appeal for explainable algorithm, capable of inspiring confidence, human-centered artificial AI, just work AI, inclusive and sustainable development of AI, respect for ethics, human rights, democratic values and diversity, protection of privacy and personal data, security, reliability and accountability. You will find it in the UNESCO principles, in the CDA, Organization for Development, Economic Development, and the principles, all the international regulation as for this kind of principles to apply for artificial intelligence. And we can imagine some solutions to avoid the risks that artificial intelligence brought to us with using diverse data sets, trying to mix data sets to avoid the bias that someone can contain, implementing explainable models, artificial intelligence models, explaining human oversight mechanisms. Always in my field law, we never sign a decision, a vote, enacted from artificial intelligence without trying to read the pages of the suitcase, read the decision, because we can find hallucinations all the time. We cannot be so confident in the results of the artificial intelligence. Collaboration between educators, policymakers, and artificial intelligence developers in order to create ethical and equitable AI tools. Don't rely solely on real world data. We need some parameters from the work data, because we know that there are some limitations that we can circumvent and need to circumvent, or we will have bad data. Evaluate data regularly, employ a diverse data team, prioritize the transparency, test AI, machine learning models constantly. The idea is to be aware about the use, during the use of the artificial intelligence. And in education, teachers talk a lot that it's very useful to circumvent the bad use, the misuse of the artificial intelligence, ask the students to do more presentations, project-based learning assessment, and others. We know there are a lot of detection tools, artificial intelligence, even artificial intelligence. There are some tools that can detect the use for the product that appear. And finally, we know that this kind of solutions are not easy to implement, because there are costs, there are some technical limitations, there are time limitations, and even the educators are not trained to do that. We have sufficient training and support for educators. You see today, the Zoom went out. We have only a small box here to the entire room. It's not easy to hear the online presentations. I don't know if you agree with me. But it's common, it's technical limitations, we have to live with them. It's in any situation of the life, we have to survive from the difficulties that we experience. So it's my little contribution today, and thanks your attention. This robot is real. Is Peppa is a real teacher robot, and it is saying hello to you. My email, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Salom. I have a question for you. Since you have a lot of experience in judiciary system, do you think that actually the AI will reduce the hallucination in justice systems and make them better and improved? We know that actually, law is like very difficult, very complex, which you need to take into account a lot of issues. What do you think? Can we do it? I find it personally like very difficult task. But we in judiciary system and law, we typically depend on human reason and different aspects which occur during this diverse situation which we use.
Yes. Is there anyone that studies law here? No, just my colleague, Reynolds, he's lawyer. Well, I believe that in law, but we can say the same in medicine, we can say in engineering. Artificial intelligence will bring solutions to you fast and cheap. It's very difficult to avoid in medicine. But, nowadays, all the emails, exams are now in Brazil, principally in this field of medicine. Basically, artificial intelligence brings the solution, brings the analysis of the image, and the professional has to read the analysis and agree or not with the analysis. And there is an amazing number that the machine fails less than the humans in this case. But in law, I can say that the machine fails more than humans. Because there is some difficulty. I believe that some fields, professional fields, will have the same. We use formal language in some fields, and words have a specific meaning. And sometimes the artificial intelligence doesn't do the difference between the natural language and the technical language. And there's some constructions that, law is basically rhetoric. Very, we deals with literacy, literature. So sometimes there is a connotative sense of the expression. And sometimes artificial intelligence is more or less literal and cannot understand the humor, the aspect of the speech, and create some hallucinations.
This is very nice. I'm a physicist, and I was always wondering, and I would like your opinion as well. We have different models in AI. One are very hierarchical, like neural networks, but you have also the one which are completely randomized, like random forestry. So, in a normal world, if you ask, I'll just give it a comparison. So if you would say that in the galaxy is life, the AI would say no, because, Earth in the vast space is just a small portion. What do you think, what would be the better model for, let's say, reduce the hallucination? Would be randomized or more hierarchical? What do you think would be having a better implication in the whole system?
Yes, this is a $1 million task, because how to reduce hallucination, we need to have the better data set. We need to have the better data set as possible. And we have to imagine the best algorithm to work to us. And it's very difficult nowadays because we cannot imagine all the variations, the variables, the elements that can interfere in our conclusions. And we know that the result will be invaded by this algorithm that we imagine to work to us. The difference maybe will be with the general artificial intelligence, when we will have the ability to think like a human, the singularity as described by some authors, and they expected this kind of singularity in 2036, 2032, 2030, and I heard yesterday a mathematician in a panel where that we will have this general artificial intelligence in 6 months only. The singularity is arriving.
Thank you. Annika has also raised her hand. Annika, please go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to help bring a little bit of clarity as well from a more can you still hear me? Oh,
Yeah, we can
yeah.
hear you.
Okay. I wanted to bring a bit more clarity from the technical side of some of these models, because fundamentally, I think something that everyone should understand about quote unquote artificial intelligence is that black box that my colleague was referring to. It's ultimately the inputs. So the input to artificial intelligence is essentially requires, of course, a ton of data, right? But it requires almost like how do I explain it? If I were to show you my jumper right now, my sweatshirt, and I told you you had 10 different aspects of this jumper to describe, so you can maybe say the color, the material, the size, I don't know, whatever, the sort of formality of it, various kind of different categories of information to analyze about it. That is what artificial intelligence relies on today. So we have to predefine the features or the kind of information about the information that is important for the model to use to produce a result. And that is the fundamental source of bias and especially with respect to time, because these models are built with a predefined set of almost like a filter or a funnel or like a kind of a strainer, right? Where all of the information that you put into it, only like bits of it actually get into the model, and the model is trained to kind of change its weights and biases based on a subset of that information that you must predefine. And so the problem and the hallucinations come in when you're asking something that requires it to use information outside of that kind of, paradigm, like that world you've built the AI to understand, It understands that there's a color and there's a material and there's a size, and that's it. So once you ask it things outside of this, the innovation with the large language models is that they can fill in that other information with knowledge it already has from that other data. And that's where you really get these like hallucinations from, because ultimately it doesn't know from the way from the information you've given it, it cannot calculate the correct answer without filling in the blanks with its own information. And fundamentally, until we solve that problem, and in my opinion, until we approach AI in a different way, some of these issues that have been discussed, cannot be resolved. But I again highlight the importance of understanding when we speak about these themes and we speak about these concepts of disinformation and bias and all these things, what does that mean, right? What does that mean from a technical perspective? If I were a machine and you were trying to tell me not to be biased, what does that mean? And until we can define that, the machine won't be able to do it. And that's fundamentally missing right now.
Annika, could we say at the end, like the ultimate goal is actually to create more error-resilient society by blending the strengths of human, through the codes as well as the machine intelligence?
I think that's a great way of putting it. It's almost like there's this kind of there's this like weird, there's this assumption or this idea in society that AI thinks and that it's very smart and that it can reason, but it actually can't, right? Like we've pre-programmed you can think of like a small child. We define its world, its scope, its understanding of things. And we as humans can grow that, right? But the AI can't, it's stuck in there. And so what we're missing is really that bridge between humanity and AI, where we're really thinking a lot more about what do we expect this thing to produce? Because if we don't have those requirements, then no one's going to build in that way. People are just going to continue to build things that, first of all, make money, because it's obviously private sector. So the incentive is very much geared towards what is commercially viable, what's going to make money. And if that includes more bias, or it includes using malicious data, or it includes things that could affect society from a positive externality perspective, they don't care, right? Or, well, sorry, that's a bit strong. That's not their priority. That's not their ultimate priority. And so if we don't come in, as a force for good, trying to influence the requirements for these AIs, they're never going to do what we want them to do. And we're going to continue sitting and discussing how we reduce bias and how all of this, but we have to actually influence with our human selves a more human dimension in the way these AI approach solving problems.
Annika, thank you very much for your perspective. And since we are at the end and we're running a little bit late, I'd like to thank you as well as Saul with me. And I would like to conclude, as it seems, this perspective is optimistic and actually encourages maybe a balanced, reflective approach to the integration of AI and human behaviors. Of course, we need to be aware of negative implications, but I think that the benefit should overweigh the negative potential of this. With this, I would like also to conclude. There is a
Is it possible while we have our online, I'm just going to use this time and ask for a question, okay?
Yeah, I don't know, are there any additional questions online?
Is that okay?
If not, maybe that can be put in the chat and that can be later answered or sent to the both panelists as well as me. And we can address them maybe later. We are basically 10 minutes over the hour, and straight we had straight 2 hours discussions. Are there any additional wishes here in the audience for questions? If not directly, we can discuss them during the coffee break.
So I cannot ask the question, right?
I mean, you can ask. You want to ask the question? But Mila,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
The only reason being, I'll be brief,
The only reason I want to ask the question is because we have her online, and that's, I have your time, in other words, so I'm gonna use it. Really quickly, all that we've discussed, and I'm sorry, I missed a part of the conversation, but all that we've discussed is basically assuming a separation between the processor, the AI in the processor, and the human. But that's not the reality. The reality is convergence of technologies whereby the AI will be fed into a device, and probably it's not going to be a device, it's going to be an organism the size of one human red blood cell. And it will be an enhanced human being that you're interacting with. So I would like to hear your take on the next generation, which is not that next, it's already here. These nanotechnologies having all this collective intelligence fed into it and in the human system.
Annika, just one sentence response, please.
No
Because
problem.
Otherwise, you can send Eva email or Eva can send this, can you send the email response?
No problem. I have a very succinct response to this one. Very good question. I think when we were discussing before, it was primarily, I think, more about the algorithmic configuration of the AI based on data. So what you're talking about is an aggregation of even more data, which is amazing and will ultimately help a lot with the ultimate output possible from the algorithms. But the algorithms themselves need more human convergence that we're not talking about as a society right now. And we need to influence the way those are crafted and the way those are designed in order to get the unbiased, hallucination-free results that we are referring to.
Thank you very much. And I would like to thank you again to both panelists as well as the audience listening. And we need to conclude the session because we have a break and then we continue at 4:20.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
But it's interesting. It's under.
have a first round, 5 minutes. I'll remind you when you have 1 minute left. And then we have time until 5:10. And so we could hopefully interact with the public, with you, because actually it's probably you that are gonna experience this kind of teams in your own life, on your team. Now, vocational training has been always a reality. What is changing is the reality around us that change everything, including vocational training. But it's not anything limited to vocational training. Actually, jobs are changing so quickly that is already 20 years that in the States, the sociological, forecasting was that a person
My
would
name
be.
is Amanda Ellis with the World Academy of Art and Science. I also represent the Arizona State University Julian Berkeley Global Futures Laboratory. And it's my great pleasure to be here with you all in Istanbul today with a very esteemed group of international panelists.
It's good. Technology is great when it works. So as we were saying, in the States already 10 years ago, that we are calculating that the average citizen of the States would change up to 5 times their home and their jobs in their lifetime, in the lifespan. Nowadays, I live in Italy, but I work and teach also in the States and many other countries. You have noticed the pace is very fast. So any effective, including a way of doing things, would need to account the new reality. And so even if the topic is on vocational counseling, vocational,
each will present 5 minutes. And then what?
Job placement, choosing the job and the field is actually the whole of life. But in terms, and I pass the word to my colleague, now in my institute there are some vocational specialists. Well, they say, well, nowadays we cannot do the vocational training for the jobs that in 2-3 years would be created by the fast changing society and fast changing technology like artificial intelligence. So we all have this challenge, how to effectively function in an environment that we never experienced before. Nobody. The tempo is so fast that is like a life that was a classical music kind of rhythm. Now we have to rock. And I pass the word, so 5 minutes, to my first colleague, which is Ximena Gates. Are you present? Are you here?
I'm seeing only Teresa.
Ximena?
Communications Minister, this man played a number.
If Ximena is not at the moment present or in touch, we go to the next. She would speak later, of course. Teresa. Teresa?
Hello. Welcome.
Okay,
yes, I'm.
Teresa, please introduce yourself. Did you hear the first round is 5 minutes for each?
Yes, I am so honored to be here today representing Global Minded. So I'm Dr. Teresa Cizurek. I am located in Boulder, Colorado in the United States. And I am a board member of Global Minded. I'll tell you about them briefly. I'm a trustee of Western Colorado University. I'm an author and a CEO of a consulting, coaching, speaking board service firm. And so I was a first generation college student who found that higher education transformed my life and has really allowed me to make a significant contribution to the world. And so I went on to found 3 tech ventures, which I sold all 3, and I served as the Chief Information Officer for the state of Colorado. So I'm really passionate about all forms of continued education. So being on this panel is really meaningful to me. So I am here representing Associate Fellow of the WAAS, Carol Carter. She is the founder and CEO of Global Minded, and she sends her best wishes. So in my little overview here, I'd like to briefly give you an overview of Global Minded and then talk about some principles that we are doing to really help people on their journey through accelerated vocational training, career development, and lifelong learning. So first, let me tell you about Global Minded. It is a U.S. headquartered nonprofit, non-government organization, and we're doing some meaningful work to make the world a better place by creating a diverse talent pipeline for organizations and closing the equity gap. And this is fueling the economy. So a staggering 52% of college graduates, many originating from under-resourced communities, find themselves underemployed. This is shocking. You know, it impacts the individual, their community, and it hinders business growth and weakens the overall economy. And so Global Minded has set up an inclusive success network, connecting students with limited resources to mentors, internships, and career opportunities. This fosters a talent pipeline while closing the equity gap. So, for example, Global Minded last October ran a conference at the United Nations in New York City. There were leaders from government, business, higher education, students, and they came together to collaborate and discuss solutions to working together to fuel the economy. Coming up in this June of 2025, Global Minded will hold its annual conference in Denver, Colorado. This is its 11th actually annual conference, and it brings together all of these leaders and students to educate and give opportunities. And so, one other thing about Global Minded, we have a mentorship program that has helped thousands of students, and it is a proven thing. This is
you finish in your time. Be
Okay,
aware.
so,
One more minute.
Okay, thank you for that time limit. So mentorships is so important. And I can talk more about this as we go into the session. I did want to say that we are firm believers in stackable credentials so that people can start with badges, certificates, and then continue to move forward to stack their credentials. Get experience when you're working at a company, have them send you to get more certificates or degrees. And then I also want to emphasize every individual needs to take responsibility for your career development and lifelong learning. It's really up to you. And in so doing, you know, you continue not only having much more fun, but learning and contributing. So thank you. I'll look forward to the rest of the opening words.
Thank you, Teresa. And then I pass the mic to my friend Shil from India. Please, 5 minutes.
Good evening to all of you. My name is S.S. Srijit. I am the founder and CEO of Global Institute of Integral Management Studies, India. And we are a vocational training unit in logistics and supply chain management. Over the last 10 years, we have an alumni of more than 4,000 people placed in more than 13 countries. And with most of the top logistical companies in the world, including Maersk, Kuehne+Nagel, like that. I would like to tell about the need of continuous vocational education. We know that we are in a changing world, rapidly changing world, and the traditional model of education, employment, and retirement becomes increasingly outdated. The expectation of working for 4 decades in one particular sector and retiring from that sector and switching over to another one or two is being challenged by longer life expectancies. Education and vocational training are essential to sustain relevance in the workforce and personal growth. I can share one of the experiences which I have back in India. Although we are not that good in higher education in case of universities and all, but as far as the skill development and vocational training is concerned, Government of India has a special ministry called Ministry of Skills and Entrepreneurship Development. And I'm also coming under that, in our sector, logistics and supply chain management, there is a vocational training body called Logistics Sector Skill Council. Like this, for every aspect of professional establishment, India has got actually different sector councils. That is one of the things about vocational training in India. And as far as this artificial intelligence and technology is concerned, it encourages the lifelong learning. Technological advancement, particularly in this sector of what I mentioned, artificial intelligence, present opportunities to enhance lifelong learning are more. Using AI, we can personalize learning experiences, adapt to individual facing needs, and provide a real-time updates on industry trends. Virtual and augmented reality can stimulate real-life challenges, allowing learners to practice skills in a safe environment. And it is time for all of us to think about self-learning and a continuous learning. Self-learning in the sense, if there is a body in the world who can certify self-learners, we don't want to get into the regular stream of universities and schools for the certification. We can learn by ourselves and pass a test and get the equal standards of what bachelors and postgraduates are getting it from the university stream. Then it will be a great opportunity. And there are certain economic implications with the life expectancy increasing. People may remain in the labor market long. We are going to see people going to work after 60 years will be increasing in the coming years. This shift requires a re-evaluation of career pathways and educational investments. Emphasizing continuous skill development ensures that workers remain competitive always, adaptable and prepared for emerging roles. Knowledge and skills of yesterday are becoming obsolete. So that is a real challenge what we are doing. Highly skilled workforce. Innovating and driving growth, while individuals achieve economic stability. We must adopt a new educational model that supports extended This model would integrate formal education with lifelong learning, emphasizing flexibility and adaptability. It should encourage the pursuit of varied interests and allow for transitions between careers throughout one's life. Support system for midlife career challenges, changes, professional development programs, and access to educational resources are crucial.
1 minute.
Yeah, I'm stopping now, actually.
5 minutes.
Will you introduce me?
No,
I'll introduce.
yeah, go ahead.
Greetings to you all. I'm Devakani Subramanian, running an institution, Spelby International, which certifies many students every year. We have certified more than 1.2 million students. And I've had some experience of having licensed more than 1.5 million children, students in your age. And how many of you are in the medical field? You are studying medicine. Okay. Other studies? Dentistry, medicine, everything, yeah, medicine, dentistry, anything, right? And on the related line. See, one day they say, okay, I'm very good, I'm preparing myself to become a heart surgeon. Suddenly the technology improves and they say no more open heart surgery. You can do with stent. So it changes. And suddenly they say there's a new thing where you can cure things through laser surgery, angioplasty. It comes. Suddenly they say you can operate from here or here, not open heart surgery. Right? It changes. And things can change. One day they can say, no more man need to operate. It's not very accurate. You move, robots are doing a much better job. Suddenly what we have learned becomes obsolete. So like that, now environment is like that. There is an educational crisis globally. I'm talking for people who are out of the schools and colleges because of their own life problems. Like 244 million children are out of schools. This is UNESCO's report, 2023. 244 million children are out of the schools. What are they going to do? Are they having some vocational education in hand? Are they prepared to work on it? Should we introduce only here or we should have introduced this when they were in their schools itself? We're supposed to introduce when they are in schools itself, isn't it? They would have lost their education because of their attitude, maybe because of their economic situation, maybe because of the climatic condition or country's political condition, can be anything, right? But what if they are already equipped with vocational skills? So that is what we are talking about today. 85 million jobs gets displaced because of AI by 2023. 85 million jobs. Like my designer, I'm no more dependent upon my designer. My content developer, I'm no more depending upon content developer. Only 10% I'm depending. Rest 90% I'm going with all AI tools. So what is going on here? Similar things may happen in dentistry also, the designing part of it. Somebody else does the technical too, isn't it? So, but then the good thing is 97 million new roles are getting in. 97 million new roles. So what do you mean by that? The earlier roles are becoming obsolete, but then there are new roles. Who is going to equip them for the new roles? Who is going to equip them to work with AI, to work with robots, to work with the generative AI, or to work on an application which is going to make you money? As doctor, you can sit in one place, you can go for telemedicine. You know, nowadays it's getting more famous, right? With telemedicine, you can sit at home, you can be globetrotters, you can go anywhere. It is not only the scenario is changing, it is also people's mind. You may be studying medicine, but you may feel like, I don't want to see blood. I want to sit somewhere, make a call, and then make some money. I want to go around the world. My father asked me to study money. Attitude changes. I don't want to work all 5 days, all 6 days, all 7 days. I don't want to get up in the midnight and then go for a call. I just want to relax and work. I want to write stories about it. I want to take it can be anything, right? So there is a shift in workforce needs. So generative AI is also changing it. And then this one more thing is, what if suddenly whatever you're studying is becoming obsolete? Now you need to have lifelong learning process. There should be flexible learning and training methods. You can leave the education anytime, you can join it anytime. Or if you've left the education, the adjustment in it can be done at any point of time, such kind of flexibilities. And the last point, what I'd like to say, and then sum up is fostering an entrepreneurial mindset. No more we can wait only for employment from others and we can get vocational training. Kids should be trained with entrepreneurial mindset. With small garden at home, they should know how to earn. With a computer at home, they should know how to earn. With whatever skills they have, they should know how to earn. So that is possible only when we start teaching it, when they are right from the school, right from at least from grade 6. This is happening in Germany. Because of that, only 6% unemployment. This is happening in Finland because of that 87% graduates are getting employed. This is now getting introduced in my country also, India. 50% of the people are getting trained the planning according to the planning commission. It's yet to come. 50% of the people are getting ready from grade 6 onwards. So let's look into whichever position you are coming to in your life. So the process is, we need to be creative, collaborative, innovative with all entrepreneurial zeal and zest. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Now we check if Ximena Gates is here. Do you hear us? I guess not. So now we go to the second round.
She's there.
I am here.
Oh, welcome.
Yeah.
Ximena, you have 5 minutes.
Great. Yeah. So my name is Can you hear me? I am not muted.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Bye.
Great. Okay. So my name is Ximena Gates and I am the CEO and co-founder of Build Within. And Build Within is a technology company in the United States. I'm going to share a little bit about who we are. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Yes? Okay, great. And so and I think that the previous panelist was talking about this already, that we are in a very different time. Right now, we have a great reshuffle of people moving from one job to the other, from being displaced because of the evolving nature of the workforce today in terms of AI coming in and changing some of the way that we work. That has made for jobs to merge. In the past, for example, you will have the receptionist and the business manager. Now is one person doing that job, so that it has caused changes inside of the organizations. You have new jobs coming in, robotics operators, prompt engineers, etc. And also we have the pandemic after effects and the lowering number of students going to college or finishing college, as well as more people staying working over the age of 65. And so all of this has created an abundance of people moving from job to job, and has also made very important for companies and for organizations to think about workforce differently. Is at least in the United States, the workforce transitions are going to increase by 2030. People will change careers. We see a lot of that already in the teaching profession, leaving the teaching profession and entering other jobs. Teachers transition very well into careers such as customer success for technology, product management. And you see also some professions that can tend to be draining, like social work, being a police officer, working in trauma centers, that people are also moving out of those jobs faster than not finishing a career. I remember my dad worked for 40 years in the same job. That's no longer the case. And with that, we have the opportunity that AI provides to accelerate the upskilling of the workforce. We at Build Within, which is my company, we take advantage of AI tremendously to power students, apprentices, and workers with tools that can accelerate their learning and also make them more productive. We started this company because in our other company before, we used techniques such as apprenticeships to bring in people without the traditional college background or people with college degrees that didn't transfer all that well to the careers that they loved into careers in technology. And we learn very well that you can actually complement a college education quickly through apprenticeships while the person is in a school. So we will have a lot of students that were in college or learn in a program somewhere, and they will be working at the same time and getting those skills in practice. So we developed a technology that is being used in the United States now to manage on-the-job training programs such as internships or apprenticeships, which are earn and learn programs, meaning the person is working and at the same time is learning on the job. And it's all of us, we've done that, right? Like we are apprentices the first time we get a job. We are apprentices when we cook a dish. The first time you read the recipe, the second time you kind of remember what worked better for you.
More peanut.
Okay, I'll finish now. So we have, technology to.
You have 1 more minute.
Okay. And so, yeah, that's our company. It's called Build Within. You can contact us at buildwithin.com. And thank you for having me today.
Thank you. And there's going to be another round for you. Now we have 3 minutes last rounds, and then hopefully some questions from the public. So, thank you, Ximena. Teresa, now you have 3 minutes, second round.
Yes, hello.
Teresa.
Thank you all for sharing your perspectives. Can you hear me? Okay, well, I am a firm believer in the entrepreneurial mindset. I am a 3-time tech entrepreneur and went on to, not only start, fund, grow, and then exit from these 3 companies. I believe that this is really important. I encourage students to get as much education as they can before they start their company. Like, for instance, I worked for AT&T, who had on-the-job training, and I did, because of them, get the company to fund additional education for me. But that then allowed me to build what I needed and make the connections so that I could then start these companies. And so I do believe that people are starting companies and succeeding at them, and that is so important. I also encourage companies to establish apprenticeships, just like Ximena mentioned, as well as internships. I believe that these and mentorships, those are the approaches that give practical experience that can help you be really innovative. People need to just be able to bring in new ideas, and through that, those new creative ideas make a difference in their company. And through that, those programs will go on. For example, one of the things when I was the state of Colorado's chief information officer, having taken a tour of duty away from my tech venture, we had apprenticeships where we brought in veterans from the U.S. Government military, and we had them working with us in cybersecurity. So they took what they had learned in the military, then they came into our government organization and on the job had these apprenticeships. And this was a path then, a successful path to a career. So, and the other thing I wanted to mention is this stackable credentials. I am a trustee at a higher education institution. And so what we're finding is, yes, fewer people are going to college immediately. They may take a gap year, go to work, earn some money, and then they may get a job and start working part-time at night like I did to get a credential, earn an associate's degree, keep learning on the job, get more credentials, and ultimately work towards a bachelor's degree. And it is addicting, and you're learning so much, and then you can contribute more. So I'd say yes.
Thank you, thank you. Your time is finished. Thank you, Teresa. And now SS.
Thank you, Alberto. See, now we can find that, everything is changing and we have to prepare ourselves for an uncertain future. We don't know about, how our future will be, what kind of jobs are going to come, how many jobs are going to become obsolete. But there are certain things which remains forever. First and foremost is when skills are concerned, the communication and leadership skills remains forever actually. We should create a kind of communication skills where we can interact with people every time. Second preparation, what we should have is our social skills. Not only communication, how to relate with others, this particular skill is going to remain since the humanity will be there, And third skill definitely is the AI-related and technology-related skills. We may be in medicine, we may be in social science, we may be in physics, or any discipline help us in future educational things. That is very much important. So this is going to be there forever. So we can start preparing ourselves for an uncertain future in that. Second, there was a notion that, or there was a statement that you become jack of all trades and master of none. But gone are those days. I would like to suggest that we should become master of one. Whatever we take, try to excel there and develop a kind of open-mindedness in such a way that we will prolong a kind of lifelong learning. So how to learn new things is the most important thing. And third, a kind of attitude which Teresa as well as Devagini was mentioning, which is an entrepreneurial mindset. That we should develop when we are doing our bachelor's degree programs at all. Don't depend on others for jobs, depend on yourself for the job. That is the future thing which is going to come. And finally, I would like to tell that be humane and connect yourself to the life. Values are very much important. Values in the sense, timeliness, orderliness, service to society, empathy, considerations, these are all not human values actually. I would definitely tell that, these are divine values. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now 3 minutes to you, Devagini.
Thank you. These 3 minutes I thought I can take in your own field itself. So what do you think is going redundant? In your field, redundant. It's not going to be there anymore. You're studying for it, you're working for it, you're learning for it, but then it's going to be redundant. What is that?
Simple coding got demolished by sooner or later. Simple coding will basically.
Okay. Regular checkups, like you are going to check somebody and they say, sometimes back they used to check just with your pulse, right? And then it got changed to like machineries, x-rays, scans and other things. Now you do not do the checking of it with the machineries. AI can do an algorithm and it can check and it can give you absolutely essential recommendations based on the case studies. You may be doing with your case studies in your life, which you may start with 5, 50, 500, but that will give you case studies across the world and then it will give you solutions from 5 lakh case studies, right? This is the best thing for this particular person of this particular weight, this particular age, this particular condition with this much of whatever it is, so many things it can take. So that is going to give you an absolute thing. So what it cannot give, what AI cannot give, what UH cannot give, the emotional recommendations, the patient, in your eyes, you can see them, that emotional connection, nobody can replace. And what other new jobs are coming in this field? How you can become an entrepreneur? Possibilities are there. You may not be only as doctors. You can be, there is a great need of medical insurance coming. Promoting medical insurance, having a company with medical insurance, not just for its a business to earn, it is a need, it is a part of human security that we promote. So you have an insurance for vehicle. In our country, I don't know whether in your country you have insurance for every human being, medical insurance. Do you have? Okay, in our country we do not have. So like that, there are at least another 120 countries where you do not have medical insurance for each and every person. So that is one. And then medical coding, medical equipment and technology, there can be research in new medical things. There can be, how many of you feel like working for the society, for human beings, welfare and other things? All of you, otherwise you would come down to this field, right? So you can find solutions for how to take care of the treatments of people in the remote areas. Now they are doing it with drones. So many things can be done with robots. There are areas in my country and several other countries where you cannot even get down and then do a treat person. You need to go down the mountains, some tricky places, or up the mountain, or between the valleys. There are so many places. So this can be done. So think about what are the other interesting opportunities, or how many of you love traveling? Traveling around the world and then being a bit more happier. Are you able to understand me? Okay, so if that is the thing, then you have more solutions. Sitting in a place, working for a few hours, still contributing a lot to the humanity. Now is the new age where these things are becoming possible. So catch it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And now, Ximena, you have 3 minutes.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, so and everything the other panelists, what they said is absolutely right. We are in a different time. And we believe that the only way for the school system, the education system, as well as the workforce system to serve the population is for them to actually work together. So schools should no longer be sequential. Students do need practice of the theory and they need it right away because everything they learn will be obsolete by the time they leave universities. So we do help universities as well as K-12 and other institutions such as departments of labor to implement on-the-job training programs and to manage them. So, we have a lot of different tools. Some of them are the skills matching, where we go through the skills that the student has, their innate abilities, their passions, and there is a matching algorithm that our platform has that is used to give them a data-driven sort of direction into the career or job or occupation that will fit their skills, but also their interest, and is within the location where they want to work. So we look at a lot of other factors, not just at the type of job, but also about what people are going to be doing in the day-to-day, because you may have a college degree in a larger umbrella of work in a discipline, but then the occupation in the day-to-day may be very different to what you have in mind. And so we do help universities a lot managing those programs. We have AI coaches and AI agents that help in the entire process of learning, having personalized instruction, as well as also helping students to interview for jobs, to match them with jobs, and even translate some of those volunteering experiences into the jobs that will fit that profile. Sometimes, you may have worked after hours at university, that will translate in a job, but you will not put it in a resume. So all of those are available in the platform. And we create pathways for job occupations, some with college degrees and most of them also without the need for college degrees. Here are a sample of those. These are all jobs that are very well paid, that have upward mobility, and where there is huge demand worldwide. Some of our partners and clients are the state of Maryland. They have a service year option program for high schoolers without a college plan. Also, Grow Your Own is a teacher apprenticeship program in the US because we have a teacher shortage. This is for a high school district, education district, as well as higher education, where this very innovative government agency is implementing on-the-job training since high school. United Airlines is also a partner of Build Within, and we help them to manage their apprenticeship program in software development, and many other partners. So just to close on this section, it's absolutely right. Skills are centerpiece for every conversation today. Education can't just be theory, and providing opportunities even like this for the public to understand the opportunities to practice what they do, what they learn theoretically, are paramount. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, to you, for some statement or some question. Who wants to start? You have also to welcome to disagree with any of the statements you made. The future is yours. You're going to be also the people shaping the jobs of tomorrow. Who wants to start? You. Can you say your name?
Yes, hello, my name is Amr Ibrahim. I have something that you said earlier that I had a question about it in my mind. You said that you should teach people or kids in school about entrepreneurship and how they should be more into entrepreneurship. So that works, but I don't know. I feel like it's better depending on the child or the parents. What if a child is not programmed to make a company or have that inspiration in their life? They want to be an office worker or something like that. Because a lot of people that I have experienced conversations with, they tend to like to do office work. They want to have a simple life and not include themselves with a whole entrepreneurship idea. So it's just a very big discussion.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Good question. This question is a very good question. Like leadership, entrepreneurship is a quality by itself. When you become a father and mother, when you run a family, you are an entrepreneur then and there. You know budgeting, you know taking care of finance, you know how to take care of customer care, and a whole lot of things what is happening in a small household. So that is entrepreneurship. You have a garden, you start growing things, you know how to manage things. You have a crisis at home, you know how to manage the crisis at home. Everything is entrepreneurship. We are talking about entrepreneurship to be taught, leadership to be taught, managerial skills to be taught. at very, very young age, so that when right time comes, they know how to manage it. If they want to become, they can become. They can study, become a doctor, work for somebody. At one point of time, when they don't want to become a doctor, don't want to work for anybody, want to start a research institute, let them start. If they want to start a lab, let them start. If they want to start a clinic, let them start. But let the quality be with them. So there are two options we are saying. One is teach them young when they are in schools. Second is make available all types of flexible and learning system, so that at any point of continuous learning system, so that at any point of time you can upgrade yourself and specialize yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will.
Who's the second there?
A few more questions? One or two more people?
Or statement?
Yeah, you can give your feedback, statement on this, your opinion on this. Would you like to? Yeah, please.
Go ahead. Can you please tell us your name first?
How much time do we have before I start? Like how much minutes? Like can I
1 minute.
1 minute, okay. So my name is Habibullah Abdullahi. I'm a computer engineering student for the first year. And we have talked about the AI, and I see like you're telling that AI is taking a lot of jobs from the people. And I think like it's gonna bring new jobs and for the people, and that's gonna be like, as we all know, AI is like a dark like black box that you get information and process and get the output to us. So our question would be like, my question is that if we find out what's inside that box, and if we know how we can make like AI to think for us and to solve our problems and think for us, maybe with quantum computers or other things, how long would it take to replace like most of our scientists and like improve and higher speed? That's my question.
Okay.
And I can answer that too.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so artificial
technique and courses.
Please go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So AI is the topic of the day. And rightly so, because we have seen tremendous advancements since 2022, even though AI exists for at least 70 years. 1950 was the first time that Alan Turing talked about the possibility that computers could think or machines could think. And here we are today with announcements of AI technologies, innovations every single day, multiple a day. And so the notion that AI may replace some jobs is true, but it will not displace people who know how to use AI tools. And in fact, what we have seen is that AI accelerates the productivity of workers, and it makes the work that you do that is tedious, automates that, so we can use our brains for the activities that require critical thinking, strategy, etc. The key, though, is that you have to, we're all learning together at this moment. That is a level field for everyone in the world. And so the key is actually to learn, is to be on top of the news about it, but also use the tools. There are plenty of them. Many of those are available for free. And my suggestion to students here is that take advantage of those. Don't be afraid of them, of course. Don't share your personal information on any public free tool, but use them, play with them. You have Sora now for video. Perplexity.
And I would like to add to that. I agree with this continuing to learn. There are free online courses in AI where you can become educated on how to use prompts. For example, you can get certificates, and I really encourage students first of all, to go into LinkedIn, create a profile, go and access their thousands of free courses, including AI courses. So I agree with you. And I want to, before we close, just encourage students to really think about science, technology, engineering, math, medicine. Those are fields that are up and coming. We really need, and AI fits right in there. So use your talents and your experience with this AI to leverage that. Thank you.
Thank you to all the speakers, and thank you that you came here. Also, the people that didn't express themselves. The challenge is to express yourself in your daily life, because the future doesn't depend on what we say. It depends on what you would do in your daily life and the kind of value you would, apply to the relationship with yourself, others, and the world. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
We need to thank.
Answer that boy, what is your answer for this?
Thank you very much. Very good, very good.